Welcome back to the Kyle Olson Show. I just talked to Rick Ector, founder of Legally Armed in Detroit. He's a guy, he just told me that he was a victim of crime, and he vowed that he was never going to be a victim again. And so he took training so he could protect himself, and he didn't have to rely on the police. And what was so interesting and refreshing to be able to talk to somebody like Rick is that we have so many people in the country today who are looking to the government to protect them. And so you have Gretchen Whitmer, Joe Biden, the list goes on and on of politicians saying this is what the government is going to do to protect you. But there's people like Rick, there are store owners in Minneapolis, there are countless people who don't have the luxury of waiting for police, and they need to be able to protect themselves. And so people like Rick Ector are stepping up, and they're saying, we're not going to be victims anymore. We're going to embrace our constitutional rights, and we're going to protect ourselves. And so Rick specifically has made it his mission to help women protect themselves in Southeast Michigan. You know, it's been said that a gun is an equalizer in terms of power, because when a woman has a gun, she can protect herself, and she, at least in terms of power, is equal, physical power, is equal to a man. So if you missed that discussion, I could talk to him a whole lot longer than I did. If you missed that discussion, please go to my YouTube page where it's posted, and please give your feedback. Now let's go back to Gretchen Whitmer talking to The Root. Again, here's Terrell Jermaine Starr and Governor Whitmer.
I just want to ask you, what are your responses specifically to the defunding police campaigns?
Yeah, so, the spirit, as you just articulated, is really about reprioritizing and rebuilding communities, not just policing.
Stop. No, it's not. That may be what Gretchen Whitmer, Joe Biden, and the other politicians who are trying to have it both ways, that's what they want you to think. But the agitators in the streets want to defund the police, period. Period. It's a 1-2 punch. Restrict your access to guns to protect yourself and eliminate police as your last line of protection. The Rick Ectors of Michigan and America, they want you to be the first line of protection, to protect yourself and not have to make a call to 911 and wait for the police to arrive. In that clip, or in that appearance, Whitmer rambled on about spending on social programs, leveling the playing field, all these other nice buzzwords and phrases that leftists like to say. And Terrell Jermaine Starr asked again.
So do you support the defunding? Because, for example, in Minneapolis, Minneapolis City Council is proposing to redo what policing is. But specifically, do you think that the defunding, would you be someone who supports the defunding movement, which is to take money specifically from police departments and put them into education, for example?
I think you do all those other things. You don't need all the money that's going to the police department. So, yeah, I mean, the spirit of it, I do support that spirit of it.
I don't know about you, but Whitmer seemed pretty clear to me. She agrees with the spirit of defund the police. After this appearance, Whitmer had to clarify, as politicians like to do. She told the Detroit Free Press, "Perhaps the words that I used on the route were maybe a little confusing." See, what she does there is when she says it like that, maybe they're a little confusing. She's putting the blame on you. She's putting the blame on the listener that, see, you just didn't understand what she said. "Perhaps the words that I used on the route were maybe a little confusing, but they have never been any other than I support rebuilding communities and rebuilding them in a way that creates real opportunity in an equitable and just manner. I don't believe police should be defunded." That's what she said. But they're trying to have it both ways because the activists in the streets, that are protesting, that are rioting, that are taking over sections of Seattle and who knows where else. That's what they want, is defund the police, period. There's no debate. There's no discussion. It's eliminate the police. I'm not sure what they expect to happen after that, but that's what they say. The agitators have one goal: attack the police and defund them. If you don't believe me, this is the level of absurdity that they're willing to go to not give anything, a pass. This is from June 10th, written by my colleague at Breitbart, Joel Pollack. The Black Lives Matter movement is targeting Paw Patrol, the popular children's cartoon on the Nick Jr. channel, because it shows a positive view of police. Let that marinate for a second. They've set their sights on a children's cartoon because the happy dog is a police officer. So in the corporate zeal to latch on to the Black Lives Matter movement and show that all of these companies are woke, there was a Blackout Tuesday that was held, and of course Nickelodeon, which is the parent to Nick Jr., participated, and Paw Patrol, who knew that Paw Patrol had its own Twitter account, and it said they will be muting our content until June 7th to give access for black voices to be heard so we can continue to listen and further our learning. And the hashtag Amplify Black Voices, which is nice. Isn't that nice? I think it sounds patronizing to me, but that's just me. And Joel quotes the New York Times, which reported last week when the show's official Twitter account put out a bland call for black voices to be heard, commenters came after Chase, which is the dog that they want to be brought to heel. Euthanize the police dog, they said. Defund the Paw Patrol. All dogs go to heaven except the class traitors in the Paw Patrol. These are real people actually typing this to Joe Biden, Gretchen Whitmer, anyone else who is giving these people any quarter. They deserve no quarter. They will not relent until police departments are abolished. And so all of this nonsense about investing more in our communities or putting more into schools or whatever the rhetoric the feel-good rhetoric is, that is not going to be done in exchange for maintaining police forces. The radicals want the police eliminated, period. My next guest coming up is John Hayward. He's another one of my colleagues at Breitbart News. He is the National Security Deputy Editor. This week, and we're going to talk about this in the next segment, this week he wrote a piece titled, Democrats Embrace the 4 Stages of Ideological Subversion. In his piece, which I encourage you to find, to look up on the Breitbart site, again, it's Democrats Embrace the 4 Stages of Ideological Subversion. His piece is based on an interview that was conducted in 1984 with a former Soviet journalist and KGB informant Yuri Bezmenov, who was explaining the 4 steps to subvert a culture. And those 4 steps are demoralization, destabilization, crisis, and normalization. Now, he argues, and Bezmenov argues, that demoralization has been going on for decades in America, and then it led to destabilization, which we've seen over the last probably 2 decades, crisis, and normalization. So when we come back, John Hayward of Breitbart News talking about demoralization, destabilization, crisis, and normalization, the 4 steps the left are following to take over America. This is the Kyle Olson Show. We'll be right back.